a shadow in the government's game. Pawn as a child with no face and no name. They stole my past to leave me cold and alone. Always searching for a place I could call home. I was lost in the dark, just a tool in the hand, till she pulled me close and helped me understand. Now the fire inside is starting to rise. I can see the truth through 1,000 lies. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. In the dead of the night, I can hear the call. All the ghosts of my past scratching through the wall. My eyes changed colors, the power has grown. With Crowley the hound, I'm never alone. I used to be hollow, a man made of glass, but now I am reclaiming every year that has passed. Every memory is falling right back into place. I know every name and I remember every face. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hell on beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I ain't running no more, yeah, I'm ready to fight. Gonna settle that debt in the depth of the night. They tried to break me, they tried to erase, but they can't hide the blood from the scars on my face. The veil is thin and the engine is hot. I'm taking back everything that they thought I forgot. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a tailhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I remember it all now. Every single face, I'm calling for you in the dead of the night.
Hello, everybody. My name's Henry. For those of you that don't know, for those of you that do, welcome back. Tonight, I'm going to talk about how some people, even a lot of people, how they celebrate life and death, and how they try to keep the memories alive in their daily lives going just like nothing's changed until it's their time to go. Now, back during the turn of the century, and you can look this up, people used to go, and I ain't talking about just one family, I'm talking about lots of people at one time would go and they'd have picnics in the cemetery on or near their deceased person's grave. Like I said, you can go look this up. But then you come to present day. Now, I'm not sure if they was there just to commune with the dead, maybe keep the memory alive so they wouldn't forget and generations wouldn't forget. Or was they actually having maybe a dinner, supper at the grave? So it would be like they'd never passed. Maybe traded different stories. Don't know. I do know that they used to do that. It was a big thing. Well, anyway, this was celebrated all over the United States. But then you come to present day. Now they have these things. I know I've been to a few. They call them cemetery walks / reenactments. Well, what they do is they pick up some local actors and they practice a little skit, and they'll go stand in front of a tombstone, a monument, if you will. And they've studied a little bit about the persons that they're standing in front of their tombstone, and they'll put on a little skit. They'll dress in a time period and put on a little skit for you. It's pretty interesting. But I will tell you this. Ghosts aren't only seen at nighttime. They are also seen during the day too. Now, if you go on one of these so-called cemetery walks, cemetery reenactments, they're usually during the day. And then if there's a big mausoleum inside the cemetery like the one up north, they'll open that up during that time and you can walk through there and look. The rest of the time it's closed except to family members only. But it's a neat experience. It's not nothing morbid, where there's guts and blood and all that shit around. It's really fascinating. Plus, it also gives some of these small town, big town, whatever you want to call it, actors that act on a stage, usually in the area, it gives them a chance to go out into public and do a little bit of acting. So it's a win-win, in my book. But anyway, when you go to those, and they'll have like several people, that have one or two people dressed up in time period, acting like the people they're standing in front of their marker. And then when they're at the end, they'll say, well, my husband's calling, so I better hurry up and get the biscuits and the supper on the table. But I'm glad you stopped by. Just down the way there, my neighbor there, you might go down and check with them. And then you walk down to where they're at, and then they'll start their skit. And it just goes until it's done. While you're at those places watching that, look around at all the people there, because a lot of times there's a lot of people there watching this. I mean, it's something to see. It's pretty entertaining. It's better than TV. But you watch. And then at the end, you watch and see how many people walk to their vehicles. Don't just look right where the area where you're at. Look off in the distance too. Because sometimes you'll see people there that didn't drive in. They just appeared there. Sometimes it could be a kid, it could be a man and woman, an older man and woman, or a younger man and woman. It could be a young lady or a guy. Just kind of standing way off to themselves, just watching everything and everybody. Which means it's a good possibility it could be a ghost. So you keep an eye out, and somebody says something to you and you turn, you look back, and they're just vanished. And they're not walking off someplace else. And you've probably just seen a ghost. Yeah, I'm getting to a point about this. But they are fascinating. I mean, you can learn a lot of things and find out things that you may or may not know. Who knows, it maybe it could be one of your family members they're doing a reenactment about. You never know. But anyway, it's something that a lot of these towns offer, and you can look it up online. It's like cemetery walks / reenactments. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I've been to a lot of them, and I've seen a lot of weird shit. Nothing scary, but, you know, ghosts are there during the day, just like they are at night. And a lot of people says, I've heard so many people tell me, well, why would they want to be at the cemetery? Why in the hell would they want to be in a shopping mall? Some of these people, including these people writing these books that have passed on, well, why do you think they'd want to be at a cemetery? Sound like fucking Winnie the Pooh. They have no fucking clue until it's their time to go. And they're probably sitting on their ass right book going, goddamn, I wrote a book about stupid people saying they was in cemeteries, and goddamn, here I am. Do you know this? A ghost can also be in several places at one time, doing different things. Yes, it's true, they can be. One minute they can be sitting in front of you, at the same time, they're miles away doing something else. Yeah, they're not confined like we are to a body. You know, we're locked in a cage. Unless you learn how to night walk. But anyway, I don't know why people think that they can't be in several places at one time, because they can be. Those are what they call narrow-minded people. They think the only symbol that exists is a square. They don't believe in circles, triangles, rectangles, or anything else. Narrow-minded. Because they start down a path and they never veer off. They just go about a block down the path. When that path is several thousands of miles long, well, I know everything because I went just a mile. You don't know shit. I'm continuously learning things. Even things that I thought I knew, I found out there was a lot more to it than after I thought about it and reasoned things out. You know, there's not a real book on this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you straight up, all these people like taps, I call them craps. Why? Because they're full of shit. Jason and Grant, yeah, they're full of shit. There is no such thing as professional ghost hunters. There is no fucking college for that kind of stuff. And when I see people like Taps and Ghost Adventures that fake all this shit on TV, they wouldn't last 5 minutes in some of the places I've been to. They fake shit because on the Sci-Fi Channel, now every 2 to 3 minutes we gotta have something happen. And if you can't fulfill it, well, we'll just have to get somebody else. And you have to buy your contract out. So they start faking shit. That's how that happens. And then my favorite one, see, I don't like Jason Hawes, period. Why? When you start saying that, don't bring me no orb pictures because that's just dust in the air. Well, let me tell you something, Jason Hawes. You're so full of shit that when you look in the mirror, you want to jump in the toilet and flush yourself. I have seen orbs with faces in them. I've seen orbs come out of portals. I've seen orbs be traveling along, blink out right before a tree, pop back into where you can see it on the other side of a tree. I've seen them go around trees, go around vehicles. I've seen them go inside of vehicles. That tells me there it has some sort of intelligence to it. It's not a fucking ball that somebody fucking threw that bounces off a wall, onto a tree, off of a leaf, off of a rock, and into the fucking water hole. So Jason Hawes, good try. It just shows how fucking stupid you are. I've also seen people get drug around by orbs too. Of course, back then they didn't know they was orbs. They just called them a jack-o'-lantern. Now, what a jack-o'-lantern is supposed to be, these people didn't know any different. A jack-o'-lantern is gas that burns in the air. You can go to some of these refineries and drive past them. You go past during the day and you won't see a flame. Go by there at nighttime and you'll see a red and blue, greenish looking flame. It's gases burning in the atmosphere. But back in the swamps and things, or sometimes in wooded areas, you would see them be a round looking flamey ball, and it would bounce back and forth across a log, off of a tree. But these people didn't know any different. And these two guys was walking to go fishing one night, and an orb grabbed one of them and drug them through the woods. So, for somebody that's supposed to be professional, educated ghost hunters, you know, they went to a college that nobody's heard of, worked for a roto-rooter, it just shows how fucking dumb you are. Evidence is evidence. And when you start disregarding evidence, you're probably throwing away something that really means something, but you're too fucking pig-headed and stupid to go at it with an open mind. In that case, then you don't need to be in the fucking business. And you sure as hell don't need to be on TV, because there's too many people that will sit around and eat your shit with a shovel and ask for more. Because they don't know any different either, and they're just going by what you're saying. And then they go out there in the woods, go fishing or something, and they see what they call a jack-o'-lantern in the woods, and they go out there and go fishing, and this thing takes in after them and drags them through the woods, and they're like, well, goddamn, Jason Hawes was wrong. Son of a bitch grabbed me and drug me to the woods. No shit it did. Don't listen to Jason and Grant. They're two preforming actor retards. You won't get anywhere by listening to people like that. Yeah, it's fun to watch them. I used to watch them until I caught on to what they was doing. And Grant's favorite phrase was, now Jason, if it's not normal, it's paranormal, right? Not if it's an orb. I got 2 words for you, Jason Hawes. Piss off. You know, I've seen a lot of things, been to a lot of places. I've been involved with shit that was totally inhuman, and I survived. I even have the pictures to prove it. So when somebody says that I seen a ghost and it smiled at me, I know that sounds crazy. No, it don't. It don't sound crazy at all. Now, in this story that you're going to hear about right now, it's about 2 people that I knew real well. Their names was Icy was her name, and Lawrence was her husband. And this video is kind of a tribute to them. Now, they met during World War II. Icy was in the POW camps, and her husband was an American that was sent to Germany to fight and liberate these camps, like Dachau and all them death camps. Icy was one of the prisoners there. And you're going to find out in a little bit about how I knew about this, how I found out. Because I didn't have a clue. I mean, I'd seen Lawrence's flag and his pins and awards and things, but I didn't understand the truth until I seen the proof. But anyway, I spent a lot of my younger years at their house. And Icy was a little tiny woman. I mean, tiny. I'm talking about like 4'8", 4'9", maybe at most. Little frail woman, looked like you could have blew her over. She could have hid behind a ostrich feather. Little frail looking thing, just as nice as could be. Her husband was damn near 7 foot tall. I was scared to death of him. Man, I was scared to death of him. He had a real deep voice, great big. When I first met him, his face was like stone. No expression. Eyes like they just stared straight through you. And Icy was totally the opposite. She was outgoing, friendly, and just a typical little old lady. And they were both in their 80s whenever I got to know them. And I'd go at their house and stay while my mom was at work. I stayed in the house a lot with Icy because I was scared to death of Lawrence. He never done nothing to me. It's just he was so big. And his face was like stone. I mean, it looked like they chiseled his face out of granite. And I remember watching him. He'd come in the house and I'd go in the living room. Because he'd come in from outside by the carport, come in through the kitchen. I'd go into the living room and sit down quietly there in the sofa. And I'd hear him in there walking around with his great big giant feet. I mean, he had feet like Sasquatch, man. I mean, they were like basketball player-sized feet. And where one room went into another, they had like an arch, and he'd have to duck. Otherwise, he'd smack himself in the forehead. And I'd do anything to not laugh. He'd had to bite myself. But he'd be in there in the kitchen. I'd hear him sit at a table, and I knew she was cooking. Because I'd been sitting in the kitchen too until I'd seen and heard him coming, and I'd haul ass into the living room, plop down, keep a low profile. Anyway, I'd hear him in there, and he'd go into the bathroom, wash his hands, and I'd try not to even stare at him. He'd come back out, go back in the kitchen, never say a word, go back in the kitchen. And he always sat at the head of the table. And you best not take his chair. I never did do it because I was scared of him. And then all of a sudden I'd hear that little tiny Minnie Mouse voice. Henry, it's time to eat. Go wash your fingers. And if I didn't move fast enough, then I heard Lawrence, big deep voice. Hey, Henry, go wash your hands. Time to eat. If I wasn't scrambling, I was as soon as I heard that voice. I definitely didn't want that big man coming after me. Well, I'd go in there. She sat at the one end of the table that was kind of oblong, and he sat at the other end. You didn't wear your hat at the kitchen table. You left it in the living room, or you set it in the chair beside you or on the floor. He preferred that you hang it on a hat rack, but I wasn't tall enough to reach that, so I was given options because I was small. And he would sit there, Now, she always wore these dresses that went down between the lower knee and the ankle. And wore these brown leather shoes, lace-up shoes. And those dresses went down to about her wrist. Sometimes she'd have it kind of like one cuff rolled in it. But I never knew why. I mean, it could be hot, cold, it didn't make a difference. She always had them on. Well, I found out why later. After I got to know him and found out that, shit, him and her was like a grandma and grandpa to me. I loved both of them, and still do to this day, even though they passed on several years ago. But we was sitting there one day, and she had made ribs and sauerkraut. Now, I like about any kind of meat except for liver. I don't like that, and I don't like roast beef. I wouldn't even feed that to my dog. But she had it, and I was like, okay, cool. And she had a plate underneath and a saucer or a bowl on the top, along with the silverware, so she had it sitting on the table. And of course, there were sliced tomatoes because Lawrence had a garden. And there was other food, too. But I was sitting there, and I'm not kidding you. To me, sauerkraut smells like a combination of beer farts, dirty socks, and whatever ungodly smells you can come up with besides skunk. But Lawrence was sitting there, and I was trying not to wrinkle my nose or make any kind of face. I was like, God damn, that shit stinks. I didn't want to be snatched up. So, Lawrence started passing the food around. When it come to the sauerkraut and ribs, I set it down, and I stuck my spoon in there with the spoon that was in there, stuck it in there, and I got a couple of ribs, put them on my plate, and I started to pass the bowl on to him. And he looked at me and he goes, "You don't like sauerkraut?" Like, dude, no. He goes, "Have you ever tried it?" No, the stink enough is enough to make me want to crawl under the table. He took that spoon and dipped out just a little bit of sauerkraut and thumped it in my plate. He goes, "You don't know if you like it unless you tried it." And he said, "Just take a couple little pieces, put it in your mouth. If you don't like it, you got a napkin there. Hold your napkin up, spit in your napkin, and throw it in the trash." I was like, I've made a lot of nasty shit in my time, but, ew. I wasn't going to argue with the man. It's his house. So I tried a little bit, and oh my God. It tastes as bad as it smelled. Now, if I was starving to death, I would gladly eat it, smell and all. But if I don't have to eat it, I ain't going to. I tried it, don't like it, don't care to have it. I don't even like the smell of it in the house. Which I'm glad my wife don't cook that nasty shit. Because I don't care how cold or how hot it is, I just go outside and spend the day. That stuff just stinks. But anyway, I tried it. Didn't like it. It's okay, you don't have to worry about eating it again. He goes, "There's a reason why we're having this meal like we're having it." So, yeah. He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I know you've been through hard times. I know your mom real well. I don't have a real fond opinion of your father, but your mother's a good lady. If you say so." He said, "But what you're about to learn, you ain't gonna learn this from no textbooks." I was like, uh-oh. He sat there real quietly, and he goes, Icy, show him why we're having this meal like this. And she looked at him, she goes, you sure? And he goes, yes, ma'am. She unbuttoned her sleeve, started rolling it up. Right here on her forearm was numbers and letters. That was burnt into her skin, branded. And I looked at that, and I looked back at him. He goes, feel of it. And I felt it, and it was actually branded into her skin. The pain that poor lady must have endured. Just because she was a Polish Jew. It's sickening to think about. And he goes, we're having this meal because on this day, years ago, he said, I went to a camp. Me and the rest of the guys, and we was going to liberate that place. As we was coming in, the Germans was running out the other side. Running right straight toward the Russians, not even knowing it. And the Russians mowed them down like they were grass. And he said, when we flung those gates open, and he named the camp, but I can't pronounce it and don't even remember what it was called. But it was a death camp. And he said that he spotted these people and it made him sick. He literally got sick from the disgust and the smell and what he was seeing and the piles of dead bodies stacked up like cordwood. The furnaces running and the ash in the air from the dead bodies that was being thrown in. And when he opened up this one barrack type deal where they was sleeping, these women, all these women, none of them had any hair. It had all been shaved off. They were thin, sickly. Some of them on the verge of dying, some of them sick. And at the very end, this young little thin girl come out. Lawrence said he was in love. Didn't know her name. Didn't know anything about her. But he fell in love with her. Right on the spot. Well, after that, they went to another camp. And another camp, and another camp. Till the end of the war. Icy waited for him. At a place that they had chose. He brought her over here, and they got married. That meal was for that day when they got liberated. I didn't have a clue. I didn't know. I spent many good years with them. After I got to know Lawrence, I'd go in there in Sonny's lap. Sometimes he'd let me sit on his lap, and he'd have his foot stretched out on that there recliner. And he'd give me rides on his leg like it was a horse. I'd go in and take naps with him, too. After I once got to know him. He was a real good guy after I got to know him. And I didn't do nothing to get in trouble. I loved both of them just like they was family, because to me they were. But anyway, several years had passed, and Lawrence finally passed away. And I would still go over to Icy's house. And sometimes I go in and take a nap, and when I go in and take a nap, she'd lay an extra blanket on the little bed there. And she'd be like, if you get cold, just pull it up on you. But she was like me, she was cold-blooded. But I'd be laying there, and she'd be on the big bed where her and Lawrence always slept. And she never slept on his side. We'd be taking a nap, and all of a sudden, there'd be a cold draft. And when I would wake up from the nap, his side of the bed looked like it had been slept on. And he was tall. His feet, he was so tall, his feet hung off the bed. And there ain't no way she could have made that much of a mess on his side of the bed as long as that was. She wouldn't have taken a nap because that's what he did. She was communing with him, I guess. Reliving just like he was there. To her, he'd never really left. Only his physical body left. You could feel his presence in that house. During TV time, sitting there at the breakfast table, the dinner table, supper table. And she always put a plate on his end of the table, and she never sat there. You could feel that man's presence. And I ain't kidding you. I cried for several days when that man died. He was really good to me. Years later, when she passed away, my whole world crashed. I'd lost both of them. And we lived not, just right across the yard from them. And I'd look over there sometimes before the house finally sold. And I'd see a curtain open, and I'd see him and her looking out the window. Sometimes we'd be out there in the yard playing, me and some of the neighbor kids, and look over there, and I'd see him in the garden. He always wore this dark green shirt, dark green pants, and these work shoes, not work boots, work shoes. And he wore this green hat from like the 1930s, 1940s military type hat. It's kind of rounded at the top like mine. Had a real long bill. And he wore glasses, but they was them transitional. And I'd look and he'd be out there hoeing, and all of a sudden he'd just kind of turn his head and look at me and just smile. And he would wave, and then I'd blink and look back. He wasn't there. I never was scared of him, of his spirit, ghost. I never was scared of ices. They was good to me in life. Why would they be bad to me in the afterlife? They wasn't. And it wasn't until their house sold is when I stopped seeing them over there in their yard and at their house. And I guess they figured they would just stay there until the house was sold, and they would just move on together. I don't know. All I know is there's lots of times I think about those two, and I think about those suppers and the good times I had over there at their house. They was good people. And if they was to show up in my dreams, it wouldn't scare me. Because to me, they never really left. They just went to a different plane of existence that can come in and out of ours. And you know this here? Deceased people, it's easier for them to come to you in your dreams. It's not hardly any effort for them. And sometimes they will come to you in their dreams because it's easier. It's also not so scary for you. But if not, they can also move things to get your attention and do things to get your attention. Not all of them's trying to scare you. It's like school, you don't go into school knowing all your mathematics. You learn each year. So each year you're dead, they learn more and more and more things until they can finally do what they need to do to get across the point. So sometimes it might be a penny they slide across the table at you. Or move your car keys. So anyway, when you see something move or hear something, or maybe your grandma and grandpa, or your mom and dad, or maybe your lone loved ones passed away, it don't always have to be something scary. They might be just watching over you, trying to keep you out of danger and watch over you. That's it. They ain't out there to hurt you. If they was going to hurt you, they would. Well, anyway, I just wanted to drop in and tell you that one, and I'll catch you on the next one. I know I've been gone for a while. I didn't die, really. I just took a little bit of time off, take a break. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all have a good night. Be good to one another. Don't take no wooden nickels. And don't throw none at me either. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.